Hi, welcome to our Daily Bread. In February of 2016, the Holy Father, Pope Francis, met with the Russian Orthodox Patriarch in Cuba. Interesting, because it was the first time a Russian Orthodox Patriarch met with a Roman Catholic Pope. It was a sign that was maybe missed by a lot of the world, but a sign for many of the possibility of acceptance and of reconciliation, and leading into other things too, building a better community. You know, the Russian Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church split over 1,000 years ago. So if these two people could meet and start to talk about differences, but also what makes us the same, how could we talk about those things in this year of mercy, about acceptance of other folks? I'm going to accept something today. This is going to be a little bit of a leap, but I'm going to accept something today. I'm going to accept the possibility of baking, because I don't bake. But the producer told me I have to bake for the show today. So we're going to make focaccia bread, and I'm going to make some zucchini, fried zucchini. We've got a deacon coming in to talk about his ministry, and he's going to make salsa. And then we're going to see another priest at a different location. He's going to make onion soup. So we got a big show today, a lot of recipes for you, but also some ideas about acceptance. Now, what I'm going to do, by the way, if you have a bread machine, this is not my bread machine. I don't have a bread machine. I hardly ever bake. I hardly ever bake bread. Once in a while I do. But today we're going to make focaccia bread. And you know, you can find dozens of recipes for this on the internet. But this recipe is actually from our producer, Paula DeAngelis Stein. And Paula tells me that if I do this way and put it in the bread machine, it's going to work out just great. So let's start with some flour. This is 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of cornbread mix, like the one that everybody gets in a little box, that Jiffy cornbread mix. We got a little of that. Okay. 2 packages of yeast. Now that sounds like a lot to me, but she says I'm going to do exactly what she tells me. Why? Because I always do. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we'll get this open. And you know, normally when you make bread, or usually I should say, you proof the yeast with a little warm water and sugar. But nope, this goes right in with the dry ingredients. Let's see. So we got our yeast in. Now I need a couple of tablespoons of oil. Olive oil I will use for this part. 2 tablespoons of sugar. 2 tablespoons. There's 1. There's about 2. Hope that's going to be good. A half a teaspoon, it looks like, of salt. So I'm just going to do that by feel. 1.5 teaspoons of rosemary. Okay, and finally we're going to put 1 cup of warm water. And then that's going to go in the bread maker. It's not going to make the bread, but it's going to make the dough and allow it to proof, to rise a little bit. And let's put that and try this bread making machine here. Okay, so we take our focaccia mixture and put it in Paula's bread maker here. And of course you can follow your instructions for whatever type of bread maker you have. And then we're going to start that, and it will come out like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some olive oil, a little bit of olive oil on this pan. And this will be the pan in which we cook or bake our focaccia bread. But it's going to rise again for a few minutes, okay? I will rise again. Hey, here we go. All right. Now we're just going to spread this out to cover the whole pan. I'm going to put little pokes in it here. We want little... Let's see what we can do here with my fingers. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush it with a little more olive oil on the top. Ooh. And then I'm going to put a touch more salt, a little bit more salt, just a little bit. And a little bit more rosemary. If you have fresh, so much the better. So we're going to cover this up and let it sit in a warm place. Top of the oven is good for about 10 minutes. Then we're going to put it in the oven at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. And look how beautiful it's going to be when it comes out, just like that. Very tasty focaccia bread that we're going to have a little later on with some onion soup. So we'll set this aside. But what can I make for the deacon, he's going to make salsa. You know, the obvious answer would be to get a bag of corn chips or even make some. You can get corn tortillas and deep fry them. But I thought, maybe I'll make some zucchini today. So let's get started on our zucchini. And we're going to use this with the deacon's salsa that he's going to be making. Carefully, you're going to slice this not too thick, not too thin. I'm going to do some as discs, like this. And then I'm going to do some as sticks. So we go from the flour to the egg. The egg will make, and the flour together make the glue to hold on our little Italian breadcrumbs. I'll set them aside on a plate until I've got enough to fry. Now, in talking today about acceptance of others, sometimes that can be a little bit almost, it might seem a little condescending. I mean, maybe we're the ones who need to be accepted, and it's others who we think we need to accept who need to accept us. You know, there's an old story about Fulton Sheen. Bishop Fulton Sheen used to tell about heaven, that when he got there, if he got to heaven, he thought, I'll probably be surprised at who I see there. And then he would say, but they'll probably be more surprised that they see me there, you know? So we're children of the kingdom. We belong to the kingdom of God. We are given through the divinity and the humanity of Christ by his incarnation. We are given the ability to be part of God's plan. So really, you know, we say we're from wherever we're from. We're from Ireland, we're from Africa, we're from Germany, we're from South America, one of the Colombia, whatever it might be. We're from wherever, but we're destined for one place. We're destined to be with God in eternity. In fact, the Bishop of Buffalo, the Catholic Bishop of Buffalo, Roman Catholic, Bishop Richard Malone, he met recently and several times with the Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Buffalo, Bishop Franklin. And what they're doing is not dissimilar to what the Pope and the Russian Orthodox Patriarch did in February of 2016. They're meeting about things that bring us together, that make us common travelers on this same planet and in this life that we live together. Look, I got some of these going, so that's good. Now, what I'm going to do, though, is something a little different. Maybe you would not do this, but for the discs, I'm just going to do them with flour, nothing else. And those are going to be a little lighter and a little simpler. Okay, now I'm going to pick out these little zucchini discs. Now, see, they're not heavily breaded, just a little flour. You want to do this at a very high heat. You want to do it quickly. You don't want them to be at low heat because then they get soggy and oily and greasy. And then you've got the nice breaded zucchini planks. I'm going to drain these on a paper towel, of course. And we're going to be making some salsa for these in the next segment. Oh, we got a lot of good stuff. We'll see what the focaccia bread looks like. And I'm going to finish these up. Don't go away. We'll be back with more right after this on Our Daily Bread. Welcome back to Our Daily Bread, where in this Jubilee year of mercy, we're talking about acceptance, accepting other people, different cultures, different ideas sometimes, and also hoping that other people will also accept us, where we can all kind of come together and share our common humanity. Today, I started off by making focaccia bread, and then we made some zucchini, fried zucchini, to go with Deacon Miguel's a salsa that we're going to have during this segment. And then we're going to have some onion soup with Father Conrad Stachowiak, who is the minister priest to the deaf community in our Diocese of Buffalo, New York. Welcome, Deacon Miguel. How are you? Miguel Santos. Good. And I didn't realize, I'm embarrassed to say, Deacon Miguel was on the program previously, but that was when I was at St. Lawrence, so that's at least 9 years ago or more.
Long time ago,
Long time ago, you were on with your wife. Where's your wife today?
She's still married to me.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that.
So am I.
I'm going to put my foot in my mouth if I did. Okay. Yeah. But she cooked on the show, too, with us.
Yes, and
now, but since the last time you were here, you have become a deacon, an ordained deacon in the Catholic Church for just the last 3 years or so, I
Correct. I've been
understand.
ordained almost 3 years now.
Wonderful.
And I am now at a parish called Holy Cross that has a diverse congregation. We have the largest Spanish-speaking population in all the dioceses, and we have the largest various African communities.
Speaking of your parish, you are connected with 2 other parishes also on the west side,
Our Lady of Hope and Holy Angels.
and they're all staffed with clergy from the Oblates of Mary Immaculate.
Correct.
By the way, we better get something going with this salsa here. Now, you've got tomatoes, it looks like onions, limes, cucumbers, jalapeno peppers. Now, you want me to do anything?
Yes, if you would please cut half the onion.
You know, that's one of the great things about diversity and bringing people together. Sometimes I think it's easier to accept one another's food
Oh my God, yes.
as part of the culture before we start accepting, people on a different terms. It's kind of the common denominator, the meal bringing us together. Now, you mentioned, though, I mentioned that parish, that other parish on the west side. What do they call that?
Our Lady of Hope.
It's Our Lady of Hope, okay. Now, there's a number of African parishioners there, I noticed, and I actually cooked over there with one woman from there. And what's that all about?
Well, let's see. At Our Lady of Hope, there are an African population there. Holy Cross has by far the largest, but Our Lady of Hope has by far the largest Burmese community.
I see.
And the Burmese community really comprise of about 7 different ethnic populations. Buffalo has one of the largest Burmese populations in the United States. But Buffalo receives one of the largest refugee populations throughout the country. And so what's happening is that as people come into Buffalo, you know, they're looking for a place of acceptance, a place to worship. What's really great about the Catholic Church is that since we're so universal, even though you may not understand the language at first, you know the Mass.
Sure.
And so that is a comfort.
It is kind of amazing to go into a church and try to see it in our own churches and see, well, how would someone who's not from this church feel if they're welcome or not? It's not only, somebody shaking your hand, although that's a great way, but, I guess we also have to accept there's some people in our churches who don't like to shake anybody's hands.
That's
There's people
true.
who sit in the back of the church, and, well, you'd like them to come up near the front, but maybe that's where they sat with their late husband or wife or something. I don't know. So we are all different, even the ones we don't agree with sometimes. We wish they would be a little different and more accepting, but it's maybe up to us even to accept them.
That's very true.
We have the tomato, the onion, the cilantro, the cucumbers. And what about, what type of spices are you putting in this?
Some lime
Some lime.
and salt.
Is the garlic for anything?
I just cut
Oh, you just cut up one clove of garlic.
of garlic, and I'm going to cut 1 jalapeno, and if you can de-seed the jalapeno.
I can't do that.
Oh, why not?
I have contacts in, and then if I touch the...
All right.
I know I'll burn my eyes.
I'll do that.
Do you know, is there a trick to that, though?
No, I think I'm going to use a little scooper and just scoop it right out.
I can't tell you how many times I've used, a hot pepper, and then just, you touch it, and I got contacts in, so it would be a disaster.
I see.
I could
Yes,
cut this
please.
up, I'm sure, for you without. So.
For salsa, the primary ingredient is tomato.
I know it would be better if we let it sit for a while, but I have to go to Father Conrad's church in a few minutes, so I'm going to try a little now, if you don't mind.
And I'd love to try it
Now,
along
look
with you.
would you say a prayer in your native language?
Gracias por las bendiciones que tú nos has dado, por presentar nuestras culturas, que nos hace una riqueza de la Iglesia Católica aquí en los Estados Unidos. Bendice todo lo que nos está mirando y que podemos disfrutar la diferencia de cada uno de nosotros. En el nombre del Padre y del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo. Amen.
Thank you.
You're
You want
welcome.
to try a little of this?
Oh, of course. I'd like to try
we
the
go.
stick here.
Do, please. Whatever you like.
Thank you.
It's salsa you don't usually put with zucchini, but
Yeah.
oh, that'll be perfect there.
And once it sits just a little
Yeah,
while
a little while longer. The salt kind of brings out some of the liquid too,
It
doesn't
sure
it?
does. It sure does.
Oh. Before we go, how would you suggest that other parishes kind of welcome people? What can they do?
If someone who may not attend Mass very often, They brought themselves to a church. Many times, we are the only church that they will see. And so if we provide us just a smile, and if we feel comfortable just to say welcome, that goes a long way.
Beautiful.
You are the face of Jesus, as I am, as our audience are.
Thank you, Deacon. That's a great way to conclude the segment. You are, we are the face of Jesus. We'll be back with more of our Daily Bread. Don't go away right after this. Welcome back to our Daily Bread. I'm Father Paul Seil. It's always great when you join us for the program. In this final segment today, we're going to go to Cheektowaga, New York, and we're meeting a guy by the name of Father Conrad Stachowiak. Father Conrad is the pastor at Resurrection Parish in Cheektowaga, but he's also the pastor to the deaf community of Western New York and the Diocese of Buffalo. He's been doing it for a lot of years. Not only that, I hear he makes a great onion soup, so we brought some focaccia bread that we made earlier for that. We're also going to have in the kitchen a woman who's not going to be cooking, but her name is Sister Concetta Lopresti. And Sister Concetta will be signing for me. I don't know how to sign language. So they're going to show me a little bit about that, and she'll be signing the next segment of the program. So I've got my hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and we're heading straight out to Cheektowaga. Father Conrad reminded me that I cooked for him many years ago, huh?
That's right.
I forgot about that. I was a seminarian. I was at St. Thomas Aquinas. You were there with Father Dennis Wolf, a dear friend of ours. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we just finished some cooking, too. We got so much food here. And Sister Concetta is signing behind me.
That's right.
One time I had her at church to sign. She came into one of our events. And I talked real fast just to kind of see how she could. But she's very good, Sister. Yes. But anyway, now Deacon Miguel Santos gave me this pin, and now you're wearing one too.
Right.
And you wear one too, Sister? Oh, not today. Okay. All right. So what does it mean?
Okay, it's the 3 letters from the deaf alphabet, the I, the L, and the Y, and it's the universal sign for I love you.
I see. Okay. Now, by the way, we're going to be making some of Father's specialty onion soup today here, and you probably want me to chop up some of these onions, I'm going to imagine, while we're talking.
Yes, because my cutting skills are not the best.
Okay, mine either, but...
So I'm going to do mine on the mandolin.
What about the culture of deaf Catholic persons? Is there a big community here of people who are of the Catholic faith that come to your church?
Yes, and that's why we have the Catholic Deaf Apostolate here at Resurrection Church. Okay, and every Sunday at the 10:30 Mass, which is also signed for deaf persons, we have about 30 to 40 deaf people that show up every Sunday. And they're involved with the church as well. As a sign of acceptance, many of them are Eucharistic ministers, they're lectors, and ushers, and altar servers.
Well, let's start the recipe, too. Okay, so we start off with the olive oil, right?
That's right. 1 tablespoon.
All right.
And then butter.
Butter, okay.
And then we add the onions.
Onions, all right. So, Father Conrad, how did you get interested in ministry to deaf persons?
Well, I think it really began when I was 14 years old. I grew up with a deaf boy. He was 2 years older than myself, and he didn't know any sign language. He went to St. Mary's School for the Deaf for 2 years when he was 3 or 4 years old, but at that time, St. Mary's was strictly a residential school for the deaf. So the children stayed there for most of the year, and they would come home for Christmas and Easter. But that boy that I grew up with became homesick, and the parents withdrew him. And at that time, there were no laws that said you had to educate a deaf child. So that's the boy I grew up with. So I always felt sorry because I felt he was very, very smart, but couldn't communicate. So I told my mother, I think I'd want to learn that sign language so that I can teach Don. She said, okay, and she investigated. She found out that St. Mary's School had courses in sign language, but you had to be 16 years of age to go, unless you were accompanied with an adult. So my mother said, okay, fine. So after work every Monday at night, she worked in downtown Buffalo. I would meet her, and then both of us would take the bus to St. Mary's. And we did that for 2 years. And in the process, I developed a love for sign language. But sad to say, I found out that if you don't have a basic language by the time you're 5 years of age, it's very difficult to teach a person a language. So that's what I found with Don. But as I said, I developed a love for sign language, and I continued taking courses. And then after I was ordained a priest, I felt interested in working with the deaf. And really the rest is history, but I started working with the deaf in 1983 at St. Mary's School.
Okay, the onions are great, so we're going to start with our sugar.
Yeah, now add the sugar, and that's 3 tablespoons. And then the flour, 2 tablespoons. And then salt and pepper to your taste.
What's your taste? Is it pretty much what's in there?
Yeah, yes. And now we're going to add 3.5 cartons of beef broth.
Okay. Now, Father, we brought, this is a lot of soup, and we brought a lot of focaccia bread that we made today.
Okay.
What are we going to do with it?
Well, here at Resurrection, we rent the hall during the week to a group of clients from the Cantillation Center. So we're going to share that soup with them.
Wonderful. Now, look at, we're going to put some wine in after a while, though. We let
Right.
this simmer for 2 hours, you said?
Correct.
Okay.
So yesterday I made a batch.
Wonderful.
So I brought it with me
Perfect.
and to show what to do next. So add the Focaccia bread.
Okay. And you could also use, like French bread is more traditional.
French bread, right.
But we're giving it a little Italian twist, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay, we got the bread there soaking. And then what, Father?
And then we, to the top of it, we add some Gruyere cheese.
And that's this.
And that's right over here. And then we put it in the microwave.
Well, we have our soup right out of the microwave. We got one for me, one for Father, one for Sister, but she can't eat until she's done with the program, our signing. Okay.
And also, I developed a name sign for yourself.
A name for me?
Yeah, this is the
I
sign
hope it's
for
not
cook.
like my parishioners call
For
me.
cook.
Cook.
And this is the
Give me-
letter P.
Here, let me start again on that. Okay.
Cook, that's cook.
Okay.
So I took the letter P,
P.
and then I did this.
So,
So I start with Father Paul.
show me how to do this. Father.
Take these 2
These,
fingers.
these two.
That, and trace your collar. Father.
Father.
And now I'll make the letter P
P. Okay. So it's like the
on your
these
middle
for the
finger.
Middle. Oh, okay. Got it.
There you got
Oh,
it.
okay.
Okay. And then
All
you
right.
take this other hand,
Uh-huh.
and you just flip it.
And that
So
means
it's
I'm a
Father Paul, the cook.
The cook. Oh, wonderful.
Yes. Usually, deaf people give you a name sign as a sign of acceptance. So, by my giving you a name sign, the deaf community accepts you. But also, because you tried to sign it yourself, that was a sign of your accepting the deaf community also.
And that's a great, beautiful, wonderful, I'm honored, and it's a great message for the Jubilee Year of Mercy
Right.
when we're thinking about acceptance and opening God's mercy in our own hearts to everybody.
Exactly.
It's terrific. Yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
you're
And we got
welcome.
we got the soup. Man, the soup is good, I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on our daily bread. And remember to reach out to others as God has reached out to us in Jesus Christ, his Son. Until next time, God bless you and have a peaceful day. Oh, and we do I love you. I love you from the heart, right?
Right.
From the heart. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm watching myself on TV on one of our shows out of Boston, Massachusetts, on Catholic TV. You know, and you can pick it up on your own Android or Apple device. And sorry, just a little. And it's so nice that people accept me in Boston, Massachusetts, and around. In fact, there's a guy by the name of Christian who often will send me illustrations of myself. Here's me with an apron on. Our daily bread. Does this look like me? It does look like me? Uh-oh. And let's see, here's one with the whole team from Catholic TV, including Archbishop Cardinal Wuerl. And I'm on this one too, you see? And this one I think has got, it's all dressed in green. This was a St. Patrick's Day card that Christians sent. Remember, you can watch us anytime, anywhere on our YouTube channel. Just look for the Daybreak YouTube channel. Best way to get there is through odbtv.org. You just go there and push a button. All our shows are there, and they're all closed captioned.